Six Flags Over Texas was a Six Flags park I had yet to visit, but was on my radar. I spent a full day there, and even with a few rides closed, I made the most out of my visit. I'll be looking at the best rides in the park and my overall thoughts compared to the other Six Flags parks. Starting off, I had to give Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast a ride. It often shuts down due to weather conditions or technical issues, so I went to knock this ride off right away. Not to mention, I was thrilled to experience this Premier Rides roller coaster. I had never ridden their shuttle roller coasters. I've only heard praise for this clone, both the Six Flags Over Texas ride and Six Flags St. Louis. I had really high expectations as many hyped up the positive G's of the ride. Previously, I haven't been too much of a fan of intensity and positive G's, but my preferences for rides have greatly changed. And Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast was definitely intense. I rode it in the back row of the reverse side. Many refer to this as the best experience, so I knew I had to wait the extra cycles to get the opportunity of a back row ride going backwards. It did not disappoint. Everything blew me away. Even if the layout does not pack many elements, Mr. Freeze soars through the elements and every element is purposeful. My favorite element of the ride ended up being the vertical spike. I did not anticipate the tower to be as high as it would be, and the magnets that propel the train up the spike hurls riders in the back forwards. So the sensation felt unreal. The element felt different from the Intimate Impulse model. I was anticipating a similar feeling, but it was very different. So the second the element hit, I knew the ride was elite and would set up for even more intensity to follow as you enter the same elements but in the opposite direction. Honestly, I expected the inverted top hat to be my favorite element of the entire ride. However, I'm glad to have enjoyed the other elements just as much, if not more, than the inversion. Premier Rides will always manufacture rides with extreme intensity or airtime, and Mr. Freeze is no exception. This may even be their best ride in my opinion. I did not expect to like the ride as much as I did. It was a phenomenal start to the experience I had at Six Flags Over Texas. Next is RMC's first roller coaster, New Texas Giant. RMC has always built some of the greatest roller coasters in the game, and I've always wanted to see how RMC began. From their first hybrid to their newest additions, every roller coaster is perfect. New Texas Giant may not have the power or intensity of other modern RMCs, but the layout and energy is there. A back row ride solidifies the roller coaster as an elite ride worth waiting for. The highlight of New Texas Giant is the Stangle Dive-like element. This overbank yanks the back row riders. I really wish future RMCs implemented this element and perfected it more. But it's clear that the other traditional elements of RMC stem from New Texas Giant. For example, you have speed airtime hills, the bunny hills, and overbank turns. Plus, New Texas Giant is a layout featuring a large amount of back-to-back hills like the RMCs we have today. Although the pacing may not be as good, it is clear that the same flow of the modern elements and layouts are still there. It's crazy how far RMC has come, and riding their newest works compared to New Texas Giant is unique. There's definitely room for improvements, no doubt, but that's comparing the ride to modern works. If you can set their new designs aside and appreciate their past work, you'll very much enjoy the long duration and ride experience. Not to mention a solid theme and great experience. I recommend a visit to Six Flags for New Texas Giant alone. Next door is the park's hyper. Titan lives up to its intimidating name as the ride dominates the skyline. Titan is massive and sits in its own plot of land. I always love giant speed machines to differentiate from the park's smaller airtime machines. And Titan fills that gap at Six Flags Over Texas. I find that sitting in the front row on these Giovanola hypers is often the best experience. This offers the best sense of speed and the best sustained airtime over the speed hill. I also find many to hate Titan for not having airtime. However, that is not the purpose of the ride and it does not need to be. I like Titan's layout despite not having many airtime elements and still rank it highly not only in the park's collection, but also amongst other roller coasters across the world. It's very similar to Goliath at Six Flags Magic Mountain, but I definitely prefer Titan as it offers more intense elements where I grade out. I find these rides to be heavily underrated by roller coaster enthusiasts. Another ride that is heavily underrated between roller coaster enthusiasts and guests at the park is Shockwave. Schwarzkopf decided to make their best ride at Six Flags Over Texas, in my opinion. If those typical Schwarzkopf vertical loops weren't already intense, you take two back to back, leading to a sustained gray out. And if that sensation was not enough for a ride to be entered in the elite conversation, there's multiple moments of airtime. These aren't your typical airtime bunny hills either. Some of the hills are banked unconventionally. So when I sat in the back row, I was absolutely launched out of my seat. Add a minimal lap bar too, and that says enough. Shockwave is not talked about enough, yet it deserves so much more hype and recognition. I was blown away a lot by the ride experience, and I'm glad to be able to go in with such low expectations, yet find myself stunned by how amazing the ride was. I was also extremely excited to see another Batman the Ride clone here at Six Flags Over Texas. I'm a sucker for these rides. The original roller coaster at Six Flags Great America solidified my liking for this ride model. Ever since, I've decided to ride every one of these clones when I visit new amusement parks. This Bat clone is done extremely well. I really like the station, music, and theming done by the park before riders experience the roller coaster. Plus, Six Flags Over Texas's Batman the Ride is just as intense as the others. I always love the compact layout and snappy inversions that these rides feature. And like the many B&M inverts across the world, I always wait for the back row. Sadly, I was unable to ride several roller coasters at the park. The ones I was most disappointed in missing were Aquaman Power Wave and Judge Roy Scream. I really did anticipate riding Aquaman Power Wave as it is a unique ride. The ride did not open until the end of the day and the line was extremely long. I ran into a similar issue with the other roller coasters at the park. I decided to visit during spring break on a weekend, so every line was more than an hour long wait, and I decided to stick it out for the major rides. Plus, most of the long waits were for cloned roller coasters that I've experienced, so I decided to skip them to save time for the other rides I've not experienced. I was still able to make the most out of my day and ride everything that I wanted to ride going in, fortunately. Overall, I thought that the amusement park was a great experience. Despite the long lines, I found the park to have a great charm. I really liked the park sections. The Spain, Mexico, and Texas areas of the park are very well done. The areas of the park by New Texas Giant and Titan really look amazing. For being the oldest Six Flags park, it still feels modern with the attractions, but still having that vintage vibe that I love. In my opinion, the atmosphere of the amusement park feels very different to the larger amusement parks of the Six Flags chain. I'd compare the Six Flags park to Valley Fair. They have a very similar atmosphere and a very similar roller coaster collection. There's still a good amount of roller coasters in the collection, however, the park still feels like it does not have the magnitude of rides as the larger parks in the chain. It's still a solid Six Flags park, definitely worth a visit. And if you ever find yourself in Texas, I would 100% recommend both Six Flags Fiesta Texas and Six Flags Over Texas. Having these two Six Flags parks so close is amazing and makes them both totally worth visiting. I might find myself coming back to Six Flags Over Texas, especially if they add another major roller coaster. Let me know your favorite roller coaster at Six Flags Over Texas in the comments below. And please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching.